I don't know. As much as I feel like they will stop the run, I still have questions on the wheels on Notre Dame's quarterback's legs. Okay. So Riley Leonard really helped propel Notre Dame to victory in that game against Georgia because he had what in that game? And I should have the statistics pulled up in front of me, but he was only averaging 3.8 yards per attempt in that one. I mean, Georgia really held the passing attack in check, but it didn't matter. Notre Dame could just run the clock. Georgia's biggest enemy was the clock, and Notre Dame did what it needed to do. Riley Leonard had 90 passing yards on 24 attempts, but was the leading rusher. It wasn't Jeremiah Love. It wasn't Jadarian Price. It was Riley Leonard that had 80 yards. Him as a runner is really effective. Whether it's his speed, whether it's his toughness, his physicality, I think he has some of the best vision when it comes to a runner because Riley Leonard doesn't have track star speed. Now he does have a gear that most people do not anticipate. But Riley Leonard as a runner is certainly dangerous. But Jeremiah Love not being 100% certainly takes away from that because now more respect is going to be given to Riley Leonard. And like I said, I'm almost anticipating that Tom Allen and Penn State have a card up their sleeve where they're just going to use Abdul Carter as the QB spy. You were permanently player locked on Riley Leonard this entire game. And you have the depth to do that as well. You have Amin Vanover. You have Smith Vilbert. Bax Granville is coming on strong here down the stretch. Penn State, James Franklin had high praise for the freshman defensive end who was supposed to be a high school senior this year. So it's not all on Abdul Carter to have the Superman type of game. If his responsibility is just solely being a quarterback spy and Abdul Carter can drop into coverage too, it's not just about defending Riley Leonard. It's just about wreaking havoc. It's just about being disruptive. Get into passing lanes, blitz, find the gap, try to do these twists and stunts that Notre Dame routinely does. And now you're going to do it back to them in a sense. Some of that's on tape this season, but not all of it. And Abdul Carter has done it even before this edition of the 4-2-5 defense. All truth. Well, I appreciate that. It's a different perspective for everybody, right? I think a lot of Notre Dame fans are keying in on the fact that they don't believe that Penn State can stop Notre Dame's rushing attack. Jeremiah Love playing is certainly a big deal. It's kind of like having Penn State having Abdul Carter available. Jeremiah Love being available is a big deal for them. It just gives you something else. You still have to factor that, hey, he's got some of the best vision, even if he doesn't have necessarily that breakaway speed like he did for that 98-yard touchdown run against Indiana. And let me point out something about that. You take away that 98-yard touchdown run in that game against Indiana, and Notre Dame's vaunted rushing attack is only averaging 3.1 yards per carry. This is a team that was the number 3 rushing team, and it might have been number 2, but they were averaging over 6 yards per carry. That's some elite stuff. But in the postseason, Indiana and Georgia held them in check, despite playing from behind too. That is something to just keep an eye on, that maybe Notre Dame's rushing attack as a whole is not as strong as it was in the regular season. Game script matters, opponent matters. Georgia and Indiana, still for what it's worth, have really good run defenses, respectable, especially Georgia, right? Georgia's always going to have a top 10 defense in terms of talent. But the offense wasn't playing complementary football, and that's why I never thought that Georgia would make it far. Carson Beck, Gunnar Stockton, that team was not playing complementary football for Georgia this season, whereas Penn State does. Penn State plays complementary football. The offense can bail out the defense can bail out the offense. Same can't be said for Notre Dame. Same couldn't be said for Boise State. The offense has to be able to do things to keep, and that's what Notre Dame likes to do, is play mistake-free football offensively and just let the defense go to work. Let the defense cause all of the issues, create all these big plays, because Notre Dame's offense just play mistake-free football, and that's how we will win. That's the formula for the Fighting Irish. Franklin always loses the big game. The season is over tomorrow. I don't care if Penn State was playing Notre Dame, Texas, or Ohio State. Well, this is an open chat to everybody, right? It doesn't have to be all positive pro Penn State. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. For James Franklin, I do not care what he did in 2017 or 2018 or recently in 22-23 against the likes of Ohio State and Michigan. And really, that's what it's relegated to. That James Franklin can't win the big game. Well, the teams that he was losing to were national title contenders, and he was not a significant underdog, but a clear-cut underdog. People were picking Michigan, and look, that team went on to win a national title. Whatever the circumstances, I'm not here to I don't have time to debate Connor Stallions and Michigan's ethics right now. I don't have time for that. Ohio State, same thing. They were a national championship contender for the longest time. And Penn State lost those games because, yes, at those points in time, those teams were better. And they won the games accordingly. But what Penn State did against Ohio State in 2018, 2019, against Michigan in 22-23, has no impact on a game between two unfamiliar opponents in 2025 with different coaches, different players. This is a different version of Drew Aller. This is a different version of Penn State's offense. This is an Andy Kotelnicki and a Tom Allen-led offense. This is also a different version of James Franklin. James Franklin has been coaching at Penn State for over 10 years, and above anything, we have certainly seen progress. How many other of these Penn State teams would have made it to this national semifinal here? I don't care about SMU and Boise State. I'm talking about having the grit and the will to not get into upset territory. Maybe the 2017 team probably gets it. That probably is the closest. I think that's one of the best teams in James Franklin's tenure. Everybody's going to look at the 2016 team, but remember, they lost to USC. Those teams have no impact on what Penn State does in the new year here in 2025 against a completely different opponent in Notre Dame that is out of conference. The big game moniker for James Franklin, the big game stigma does not matter here. It's Penn State versus Notre Dame in 2025. It's Andy Kotelnicki against Al Golden. It's Mike Denbrock against Tom Allen. It is James Franklin against Marcus Freeman. It's Drew Aller against Riley Leonard. All those players, Trace McSorley, Saquon Barkley, they're gone. Zach's analysis is spot on. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for watching the show. Notre Dame is too injured. Well, Notre Dame is losing the quantity of impact players because Abdul Carter certainly, him being limited, you want him to play 100% of snaps. And fortunately for Abdul Carter, it's not a lower body injury because if he is not contacted every play, which is why I think he's going to go into this hybrid type of role at defensive end, linebacker, just a stand-up freelance defender. He doesn't have to be hit every single time. He just has to be disruptive, and you can do that without contacting and getting hit by a tackle, a guard, right? An extra tight end tries to chip you on the way out on a play to help you. A running back tries to chip you in pass rushing situations. But Notre Dame has certainly, Jeremiah Love, star running back, Cooper Flanagan, just kind of that do-it-all tight end that people don't give enough credit to. Riley Mills, best pass rusher, is out. Howard Cross, best overall defensive tackle for Notre Dame, is hurt. And then other guys are dealing with bumps and bruises, but they're going to play just based on, hey, they played against Georgia, they played against Indiana, they are expected to play. But that's four players that I just named that have a significant impact in Notre Dame's offense and defense that aren't just, oh, they're rotational guys. No, these are legitimate players, and they're either hurt and out or limited, whereas it's just Abdul Carter for Penn State. So yes, Notre Dame is dealing with more injuries than Penn State. It's just bad luck. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I wish that Penn State and Notre Dame could play each other at full strength. Okay, this is interesting. I'm glad we can have this discussion. No, Carter needs to be playing defensive end, pressuring the quarterback nonstop. Don't want to even think about him being passive, sitting back, reading the offense, making plays. He will rush after the quarterback. It's just going to be different. It's not going to be against the left tackle every single play. It's going to be more of those special pass rushing packages, and they showed it early on against Boise State, where Penn State ran of I am all for Penn State putting 7 defenders in the box, bringing Jalen Reed down close to the line of scrimmage, and daring Notre Dame and Riley Leonard to throw the football early and often. You are not going to beat us running the football. You are going to beat us throwing the football. Can Notre Dame do that? Well, Penn State can certainly defend it. A lot of these teams that Notre Dame faced outside of Texas A&M and Georgia are teams that do not defend the run well. So Notre Dame was able to have success. But Penn State, as we saw against Boise State, as we saw against SMU, is good at defending mobile quarterbacks and teams that are very run-centric. Notre Dame is just that, but they have a top 5 elite defense to complement them. So now what happens? Well, Penn State's just going to have to be a little more disciplined. They're going to have to fire on all cylinders. They're just going to have to play a better brand of football than they're already playing because the caliber of opponent is better. But Notre Dame is very similar to Boise State and SMU from the fact that they have a blueprint to win games. And if you take them away from that blueprint, because Penn State can ad lib. Penn State can be down by 2 touchdowns against USC and pass its way back to victory. Penn State can sit on the rock. They can run out the clock. Didn't mean to rhyme there, but you get my point, is that Penn State can win in a variety of ways. Notre Dame cannot do that. They need things to set up. They need things to set up in their favor in order to come away with a victory here. And it doesn't get any easier. This is the best team that Notre Dame has faced this season.